Hello, everyone. I'm Pamela Brewer, welcoming you to this edition of M.E.S.H. M.E.S.H is the place every week where you know that I will be joining you to discuss anything relating to your mental, emotional, and social health. And today we kind of got a twofer because I'm going to be talking to someone who is a clinician professionally, but is also going to be sharing with us some of his own personal experiences about something that we don't really talk about a lot at all. And that is the experience of having a mood disorder. Many of us don't know what it is, how to think about it, and we certainly don't feel like we want to talk about it. Stephen Nawotniak, I am delighted to have you here. You are a clinician. I'm going to ask you to give us a thumbnail sketch of what that means. And you are also the author of a handbook for healthy living with a mood disorder. Steve,
Yes,
welcome.
welcome. It's great to be here. So I am an occupational therapist,
What is that?
and and what that means is occupational therapy is all about supporting someone in function. So it's about how do I be successful in doing those things that are meaningful to me. And occupation, it's not just job, occupation, think about what things occupy my time.
Huh.
So it could be uh, recreational activities. It could be, we call them activities of daily living, like getting dressed, washing up, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
It could be budgeting. It could be using transportation to get from point A to point B. Whatever if you're a child growing up and you're in school, it could be handwriting. It could be self control in the sense of like sensory integration, using things that smell good, sound good, look good, feel good, just giving those pleasurable sensations and grounding sensations to the body. So it's all about function, not necessarily cause.
Which is so interesting because so many people don't think about that. I mean, people have experiences where they're having difficulty functioning, but don't recognize that there is a specific clinical area, if you will, clinical professional that can actually help in those areas. You heard me say that you're a bit of a twofer. So we've talked about what you are doing as a clinician, but you also heard me say that you are the author of a book entitled Handbook for Healthy Living with a Mood Disorder.
Yes, I
So,
myself live with a bipolar condition.
okay, what does that mean?
So with bipolar condition, I can have extreme lows and extreme highs. And if it's okay, what I would like to do, one of the things I really want to do is help demystify
Please.
mental health experiences. So with depression, when I've given presentations a lot, and when I talk about depression and what my experience with clinical depression feels like, is that it's much closer to having the flu or being real sick than it is simply being sad emotionally. So for example, when I've talked about people what stands out when you're sick or have the flu, yes, sometimes people will say coughing, headache, those kinds of things, but most of the time what I get is body fatigue, um, or brain fog, this sense of wanting to be by yourself versus others because it's too overwhelming to be with people with all that stuff going on. And so those kinds of physical experiences are much more in line with my experience of the debilitating part of depression than simply things are going bad and I'm feeling sad about them.
Okay. And what's the other side of bipolar?
The other side with bipolar has to do with hypomania or mania, which has to do with an elevated sensation or an elevated experience. And when I talk about hypomania, I look at it like parallel to being over caffeinated, where you have this energy, you can have a little heart racing, there could be this restlessness, and also being pleasantly buzzed with alcohol in the sense that you feel good, you can have more creativity, your inhibitions are down, you feel like it's all going to work out, but what you lose is objectivity. And so if you put this over caffeinated, pleasantly buzzed together, that's parallel to my personal experience with hypomania.
So with you've given us a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, and there are so many people, as I know you know, who will have any number of experiences, including the range that you talk about. They don't want to tell anybody. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to admit it. They certainly don't want to go see a doctor or get information. Can you respond to that?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I have found is in the beginning, I looked at it as something to fight,
Okay.
something to beat, something to get better from. It was like this negative thing that I had to overcome. And when I was hospitalized for depression and when it was beating me up, that paradigm worked in that moment.
Ah,
But because I live with these extreme experiences throughout my life, it's part of my experience of the human condition. What I have found is my journey is about personal growth and development and building wisdom and self understanding more so than trying to fight or overcome an illness. And what I find is the challenges are the same, right? I'm not dismissing the challenges,
wow.
but my approach I find is more uplifting and more empowering because it's just getting to know me, what helps me be my best self.
When you put it that way, what you're saying is, I'm going to accept the reality of what's going on, really work hard not to judge what I didn't create, and then figure out ways to navigate through my day, navigate through my work. Because again, so many people have so many views about what it means to have a mental health issue, illness, disorder, you name it. And I don't know anybody on the planet, quite frankly, who isn't dealing with some sort of mental health something, or, we're kind of like not alive. But let me take you to the dating world for a second.
Yeah.
Let's say I have an illness that I don't wanna talk about. Now,
Hmm.
I might tell somebody if I'm wearing glasses, I might say, "Well, I'm wearing glasses and it's because of X." But if I'm dealing with some or, I don't know, I don't know, I'm wearing, something on my wrist because I broke my arm. Okay, I can do that. It's okay, and I'm not going to feel judged.
Hmm.
I'm having an emotional situation going on. Do I tell? Do I not tell? Do I keep it to myself? What are your thoughts?
Sure. So I think some of that has to do with what kind of relationship you're in and what kind of relationship you want.
Okay,
So, for example, I have found in general, if somebody says, I have X challenge and I'm working at it,
gotcha,
and this is what I'm doing to address it, and I may not get it right all the time, but I'm actively working at it. In general, people accept that much more than, well, I just have this and you just have to deal with it.
gotcha,
So that's
gotcha.
one piece. If it's I'm going to call it a shallow or superficial level,
Mhm.
then you're just kind of saying it what it is and you're just telling what's comfortable. I am married, and be in part of my getting ready to propose to my wife, I knew I had to have that conversation of, listen, I have a bipolar condition. This is what it's like for me. These are the things that I'm doing to help address it, and have that, and I have to be that authentic and real if I'm going to have that kind of a relationship that's built on a solid foundation. So it's really kind of what degree are
Right,
you looking at having that relationship with? And the deeper the relationship, the more vulnerability I find is associated with it. But then there's freedom when the person accepts the fact that, yes, this is something I'm challenged with,
yeah,
and they're seeing it. But again, I truly believe me owning it and actively working at it and showing that active work makes it workable.
and it's really it's empowering, and it is expressing respect for yourself and expressing respect for your potential mate. So you had this conversation with someone before you asked to marry. This is not a conversation you're gonna have on your first date when you're meeting for a cup of coffee.
Right.
If you are in a manic phase,
Hmm.
might this be something you would talk about?
Um, as far as like I've already had the conversation and let them know that I'm having bipolar, or I'm just in it and
You're just in a manic phase. And
yeah,
we know that there are differences. If you meet somebody and you're feeling depressed, you're gonna have
yeah.
a presentation, manic, something really different.
I, you know what? I'm able to recognize when I'm having a manic phase, and
Good.
yes, if I'm up, I will admit it and I'll have, these are the things this is just kind of where I'm at right now, and I'm working on it, and
Mhm.
this is not the time for me to go buy a car, you
Right.
know so I can't make my big decisions right now. But yes, I think there's an authenticity when you're able to be authentic with people. There's a freedom for both you and the other person when you're not dumping your stuff on them.
And what I heard you say that's so important is you said, when you kinda know what's going on,
Yes.
you can kinda tell when you're feeling a particular way or another way, and that sort of speaks to one of the things that you, speak about and describe and show in your handbook is sort of charting your moods, really getting more comfortable and more aware of what's going on. Talk about that. What's the value, uh, to paying attention to what your moods are?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I find, again, this is about wisdom and self-understanding.
Yeah,
It's about, and it's not just, oh, here's a name on a list on a sheet of paper, because that can be whatever. But it's understanding, this is what it feels like. This is what I tend to do. This is where I tend to go internally and mentally. This is what it feels like with my heart racing or my sweaty palms or my restlessness or whatever. By me understanding what those experiences are like in my life and in my world, I'm better able to address them and do the things that help me be my best self during them. And so I find this is that process, like I said, of self-development and self-awareness and self-understanding. And then you're able to look at it with curiosity of trying to understand it more, versus I have this problem that I don't want to let beat me. I have to fight it.
yeah.
That kind of confrontational approach.
Curiosity is one of my favorite words. Let me ask you another question.
Mhm.
Do you tell an employer that you are dealing with a mood disorder, or do you keep that a secret?
Sure. I can tell you what I've done.
Okay,
And I definitely would not say it in an interview personally, because there's a lot of stigma out there.
right.
And I don't think that necessarily helps. What I try to do is show my best self and do things just so they can see, here's what I can do. And then once I've kind of shown my abilities, then I'll talk to my supervisor and say, so look, I'm just, now that you've had a chance to get to know me a little bit and what I can do, I'm just letting you know that I also have this challenge that I'm working on.
That's the
And
key.
and that's the ownership piece. It's not, I just have an excuse, or there's a problem that you just have to deal with. Nobody wants that.
Right.
But
Mm.
if it can be, here are some of the challenges and here are some of the things that help me. And I do take mental health days off, but they're like my sick days. So instead of going hard, 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 and then crashing and then having to be out for weeks on end,
Oh,
when I notice that I'm having that struggle, yes, I'll try and push it a little bit, but then maybe I'll take a day or two off. And it's just like having the flu for a couple days.
right,
It's just,
right.
it dips into my sick time like anybody else. But again, I have shared that with people, but I've done it with the context of, I want to be the best employee that I can be. And so these are things that help me be my best self at work. The context and the paradigm, I think, makes a huge difference.
What I hear you saying is really consistently addressing, in addition to as we are speaking, but also in your handbook for healthy living, uh, the fact that you don't have to hide, that you can have a full life with a mood disorder, like you can have a full life with arthritis or with a cold or with the flu. And yes, there may be moments when you need to navigate a bit differently, but your life is not over, and
Correct.
your life is does not have to be filled with shame because you've got something going on that quite frankly so many people have.
Yes. And as an occupational therapist, I've worked in a lot of supported nursing facilities. I've been in rehab facilities. And I will just say that depression is a fairly common
Very,
condition and
very,
diagnosis that I've come across in working with people. It's very common.
very.
So that part, that shame piece can be set down. And talking about shame and stigma, I just want to share that there's two types of stigma that I have experienced.
Okay.
There is community stigma, which is from other people of how they may associate with you.
Okay.
And that is real. I think it's better than it was, but that does exist. But for me, the more impactful stigma is what I would call self-stigma.
Yeah.
And that's when I start taking my self-identity, and I make who I am and how I feel about myself based on a diagnosis or a label. So instead of it being something I have, I identify it as something that I am. And
Gotcha.
that part is what's I find the most disabling.
And not only is it just it shrinks your life. I mean, that's
Yes,
the bottom line. When you start blaming yourself and shaming yourself, then you're stuck. You're standing still, you're not going anywhere, and you're really going into a downward spiral that is not helpful for you, for your clients, for the people who love you, for the people who are around you. So what I hear throughout our conversation today is your, dedication to being aware, to sharing awareness, to really, walking people through action steps, and we haven't had a time to really talk about that, and we won't have that time to go through that in detail today, but it's definitely in your handbook. You know, here's what's going on. Here's how I chart sort of my moods. Here are the things that I can do. What can I do first? What can I do? And they're all doable. It's not like you have to rewrite the world in order to navigate your world, which again is so empowering.
excellent. And the last thing that I would just really make sure people understand is the challenge is definitely real. Don't hear what I'm not saying. It can be very challenging. It can be very difficult. And the two biggest lies that I've experienced with depression is number one, it will always be this way, and number two, I'm all alone.
Yes.
Those are the two biggest lies that I have heard that my brain tells me when I'm in that depressive mode. So what I want to just say is that if you are going through these experiences, number one, you are not alone. Number two, there are things that can help make things better, and it is doable.
The experience of of depression is absolutely common. You are completely right. I don't know that there's anybody walking on the planet who hasn't experienced some degree of depression, and there are certainly degrees of depression, but who hasn't experienced some degree of depression in their lives at some point. It is absolutely, unfortunately, very common. And what you're saying is it's common. Yes, not only are you not alone because so many people experience it, but you're not alone because you don't have to be. Because there are people who get it, there are people who want to help, there are people who, as you are saying, kind of been there, done that, and are doing that.
Absolutely. And while each one of us has to walk our journey ourselves, we don't have to be alone in that journey. And when you're able to connect with people that have been there, that have gone through that experience, that maybe are a little further in that journey than it helps the process. It helps the journey.
You know, I'm thinking about the little engine that could, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. I did it. And that's exactly what you're talking about. When you have these things going on in your life, it may feel really hard in the moment, but that moment is not a static moment, that there really is change that can happen. And you are such an important part of that. So, again, I have to thank you for joining us today, for sharing your personal story. I'm really delighted that you have written the Handbook for Healthy Living. I think that is such a valuable tool for so many people. So, again, Stephen Nawotniak, how do people know more about you? Is it your website?
Easiest way is to go to my website, StephenNawotniak.com.
Okay, terrific. Again, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story.
Thank you, Dr. Brewer. This was truly a pleasure.
I am delighted. And folks, I'm delighted that you have been here to join us today. As you may know, I am here every week and there's always something more to learn about you and about the world in which you live. I hope you will share today's conversation with someone you care about. Stephen, again, thank you so much. And folks, I will see you soon.
Take care now.
All righty.